Okay, thank you again for letting us have some more time. We only have a couple questions. Number one, how do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
With young people and with adults, it's about giving them the opportunity to talk and listen. I think the one thing I've tried to do here at the middle school is my students and even my staff know that they can come into my office at any time for anything. And you do that every single day by being out in the building, just saying hello, good morning, how are you? Um, and just coming through the cafeteria, sitting in there eating with the kids, even though I might sit at a different table. But a lot of times I'll just sit down at a table just to talk. And so that's the biggest thing, is just building relationships with the kids and even the staff so that they know there's somebody here that's always going to listen. And when a student does come to you for something, you always get back to them. And, even if it's not the answers that they want, at least they know that you're listening, and that builds the trust with the kids in the building.
Thank you. How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying?
I think at this age, the biggest thing is teaching. And that's the reason why I always talk about different things a lot of times during announcements, and talking about just being kind to each other. You're dealing with 1,200, 11, 12, 13-year-old kids. They're going to do some not so smart things, we'll call it sometimes. You have to teach the behaviors that you want them to give, to show people, because sometimes they don't have that when they're not at school. So it's important that you always continuously teach kids what expectations are. How do you treat people? And even when there's consequences to be giving out when a student crosses the line, it still goes back to teaching them the expectations, and you don't change how you treat a kid just because they've messed up. And I think by doing that, you build a culture and a climate within the building to where hopefully you can start getting rid of some of the bullying and stuff like that goes on. Are you ever going to get rid of all of it? Absolutely not. But you keep trying to build and teach so that you can eliminate a lot of it.
Thank you. Thank you again. Yeah, that'll be all.
All right, you're very welcome.
How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
Well, I think to recognize how difficult it was to bring it up in the first place, because in middle school especially, it's really hard to talk about anything that you don't understand, or that people may make fun of you about, or reject you for, or laugh at you about. So I think it's just important to recognize that they're not the only people that are struggling with this, and that what you're going to help them with is not something that you're going to broadcast throughout the school. And I think it's really important to help young people understand that being brave and talking about it is usually the best step you can take, the first step you can take. And the younger you address those things, the easier it is to go ahead and get help so it doesn't become a bigger problem.
What strategies do you use to show empathy and understanding to youth who may be struggling?
I don't know about strategy, but I think it's really important to listen. I think in middle school, I always felt like people were always telling me things and telling me what to do and giving me advice, but they really weren't listening. And I really didn't ever want somebody to solve my problem, because they didn't have my problem, I did. But I just needed somebody to listen to me. Sometimes you just need to complain. Sometimes you just need to get it out, and you don't know who to get it out to without judgment or without somebody getting mad at you for saying it. So I think it's just really important to be there and to listen, and to not judge them for everything they say or feel, and just giving them that open space.
Why do you want to work with middle schoolers?
Because I hated middle school. I wouldn't say I hated middle school. Sometimes I liked it a little bit too much, which got me in some trouble. But I think it was like the hardest time ever, because I remember sometimes it would change by the hour, and sometimes I loved school and I loved all my friends and I was on top of the world and I was the best person to be around, and the other times I was the meanest person in the world and nobody wanted to be around me because my moods were shifting constantly. And I remember some days like I couldn't wait to go to school, and then other days I was begging, please homeschool me, you know. And I remember there was a love-hate relationship with middle school and middle schoolers, and I remember how difficult I was. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go back to the place where I really just, it wasn't the best, because if it wasn't the best for me, I know it's not the best for other people too. So I want to be around where I feel like I could help out the most.
Hey Coach Kalia, what's your favorite Christmas tradition?
When my wife and I were coming back from our honeymoon, it was on Christmas Eve actually, and so we were looking for somewhere to eat because we didn't really have any money and there were no places open except for a Chinese restaurant. So we now do Chinese food on Christmas Eve as a new tradition of ours. So,
How do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
I think it's important to be open and honest with them, and to also be able to follow through, because if you're just going to say something but have empty words and not actually follow through on, you know, either promises or punishments for that regard, I think that's kind of the baseline that you have to have for trust is, you know, your word is everything. And if I can't trust you at your word, then what do you have? Right?
How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
I think the important thing with it is that I think for the most part, everybody's affected by mental health in some way, shape, or form. And so being able to have those conversations with that in mind puts you in the shoes of that person, so to speak. And also just being gentle and not pushing too much with details or anything. Like if somebody doesn't want to talk about something, they don't have to talk about something, but as long as you can be that person to be there for them, I think that's the thing that matters most.
Why did you want to work with middle schoolers?
My first choice actually wasn't to work with middle schoolers. I am certified to teach 6th through 12th grade, but I was originally looking for a high school position. And kind of just as luck would have it, this was a teaching position that had opened up, and I had the opportunity to come and teach 8th grade. And it wasn't something I was ever expecting to do, but I just kind of got put into this position, and now here I am. But I've enjoyed it ever since. So.
How do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
I think it kind of starts at the beginning of the year, where you kind of get the kids to get to know you and show them that you're there for them, and you know that you want to have fun in the school year, and that if they need anything, you're always here to talk and things like that. But you really just want them to understand who you are and show them that you're here to get to know them as well and have fun.
Question 2. How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
It's a really tough question. I think when it comes to like mental health topics and a few other things, if it's a situation that like you yourself have been in, like if I've been in that type of situation, you try to talk to the kid and give them like an examples of how you got through it and things like that. With bullying, you know, you always want to talk to kids about moving past it and finding an adult and things like that. And you gotta just kind of understand that life, like middle school life, y'all are kids, you make mistakes, and we gotta kind of move forward and look forward to the next day.
Question 3. What strategies do you use to show empathy and understanding with youth who may be struggling?
You just are always there to talk to them. You know, have a smile on your face every day. You ask them how their day's going. You ask them, you know, how their week was, what they did over the weekend. You know, if they're what they do to have fun. If they talk about playing video games or things like that, you talk about playing video games. If they talk about sports, you talk about sports. You know, you try to find the kids' interests and make sure that they understand that you're wanting to get to know them better, so that they know that somebody's in their corner at some point.
Question for your time.
No problem.
establish trust with young people is to be transparent. I think that the more transparent you are with the person, the more trusting they're going to be. Sometimes you have to be vulnerable, and being vulnerable is like a dangerous, sticky kind of situation. But if you're open with somebody else, then they'll be open with you, building that trust.
How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
Being understanding. You have to understand that there is no one perspective of anything, and you have to understand where they're coming from. It might not sound bad to you in the scenario or the situation, but just having that understanding that, hey, I just need to have a listening ear to see where they're coming from, see their perspective.
What strategies do you use to show empathy and understanding to youth who may be struggling?
Active listening is a big one. So when somebody comes to me with a situation and they're talking to me, I will ask them questions to keep the conversation engaged. And then another thing that I do, another strategy that I do is I try to put myself in their shoes, and I try to put them in somebody else's shoes. So for instance, if someone is going through something and they have a scenario, I'll ask them, kind of play a little devil's advocate, if you will. Hey, have you thought about it this way? Or what happens in this situation if you were in that person's shoes? So that's how I do.
Why did you want to work with middle schoolers?
Well, you see there, that's a good question. Y'all are something different. Middle schoolers, boy, y'all are, oh man. So I've worked at the elementary level, I've worked at the high school level, and now I'm at the middle school level. And I will say that the middle school level is probably the best level to work at, because you're not only getting to build relationships with kids when they're building relationships with themselves and growing themselves, but you also have a lot of influence over middle schoolers. High schoolers, they're grown, they think they're grown. Elementary school kids, they just love on you. Middle school kids, y'all think that y'all are grown, but you're not. And sometimes you have to reel y'all in. So it's fun. It's always an adventure at the middle school.
Hey, Ms. Hollenbeck. So we're from Sources of Strength, and we're going to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
So how do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
Wow. Well, first of all, I always want to present myself as a trusted adult that any kid can come to and share things. I try to be a great listener. I try to just make sure that I'm willing to share myself with kids so that they're comfortable sharing themselves.
Okay.
How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
That's a good question, and there's a lot of that that's very much a big deal and a problem right now with young people. I try to just be really an active listener, so like when when I get the feeling that maybe somebody's struggling, or maybe they've got just a lot that's weighing heavy on their heart, I try to make eye contact. I try to, sometimes I just, go by and put my hand on their shoulder or something, just to help them to feel comfortable and to know that they're not alone in any situation and that they can talk to me about anything.
Okay, what strategies do you use to show empathy and understanding to youth who may be struggling?
Gosh, that might be what I just answered instead of the other. I think with empathy, it really is trying to put yourself in their shoes. And it's, sometimes there are things, because I'm older, there are things that I can appreciate because I've been through it too. And so, just even being able to share my side, or being able to listen to what they're going through and trying to understand from their perspective, I think is really important. And I think that helps everybody feel more comfortable, whether you're a kid or an adult.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for coming, and thank you for sharing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
Okay. Thank you for letting us have some of your time today.
Thank you for choosing me.
So we only have a few questions for you.
Okay.
Number one, how do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
I try to be very inviting. I try to be very bubbly. as you sometimes know. But I also connect with them because I've been there, and I try to bring in my real world experiences with their real world experiences and let them know that it is a safe place to be with me, because if nothing else, I want them to know that they are safe with me.
Awesome, that's awesome. Second question, how do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
I tend to take it personal with them, and I let them know that I take it personal with them. But also because I too have been there, and I was bullied when I was in middle school, and so I can bring in how I dealt with it and how I want to help them to not go through what I went through, and just try to pull in those experiences so that they know that I'm real. I don't want them to think that I'm just sugarcoating over the conversation or not handling it, and I try to go above and beyond and let them know that I will go above and beyond anytime, all the time.
That's a great approach.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
again
you.
for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank y'all. And trust.
How do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
Well, it's, I guess I would say through mutual respect, you know. They know my expectations, and I try to be respectful to my students. And also through, you know, lifting them up, you know, trying to be positive, you know, compliment them on their work or notice something about them. So that they got a haircut or a new pair of glasses or something like that, you know. So yeah, through mutual respect.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, thanks.
How do you establish trust and How do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
Well, with y'all kids or anybody?
With just young people, just kids.
How I communicate with them, I talk to them and try to ask them what's going on with them. When I see somebody's like real mad, I try to talk to them and tell them they can trust to talk to me. If they didn't feel like trusting to talk to their teacher or their friend, they could talk to me and they could trust me. And then I talk to you next time.
I can't. Okay. Why did you want to work with middle schoolers?
Because I love the kids, and I try to, because I have grandkids and my kids, and I just love working with little kids. I love the babies. I love all of them.
How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
I try to ask what's going on. Like, I try to ask, like, because I know some people, kids might be scared to talk to their parents at home, and they like need someone to talk to. I even tell them something like what I'm scared, because I be scared a lot at this school too. So I just try to comfort them and tell them it's okay. It's okay to be afraid, but just talk to somebody.
That's a good answer.
How do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
That is a great question, and I'm really glad you asked. In order to establish trust and open communication with young people, you know, before I teach any math content, I really like to just build a relationship with students and let them know that I care about them more than just a math student, but as a human being, as a young person who has the potential to impact our world. And once I've built that relationship, at that point, I'm willing and they are willing to share about life experience, bigger picture, not just math related.
How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
That's another great question, and I'm glad you asked. So, you know, it's a tough question too, because mental health is a serious topic. So I think it's important to approach those conversations carefully by listening and being open about other people's, you know, lived experiences, what they're going through, because they're not all the same lived experiences. Everyone is unique, so making sure that we don't judge each other and helping to resolve any conflict or any potential issues. And ultimately, my job as a teacher is to teach and I can help as best as possible, but ultimately, if there's a need that I'm not able to address, we also have our counselors who do a great job at addressing mental health and bullying issues as they arise as well.
What strategies do you use to show empathy and understanding to youth who may be struggling?
Right, I'm glad you asked. That's a great question. A strategy that I use is by opening up about my own shared experience. Right now, it looks like I'm an adult male who has it all put together, but in reality, at one time, I was a middle school boy, and so I think that I have a lot of shared experiences and can relate to what current middle schoolers are going through. And so just being open and honest with our middle schoolers is very important to me.
How do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
Well, when I first get to know them, I try to listen to them, get to know what they're passionate about, get to know what they connect with, and build some trust from there.
How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
Well, I try to first of all listen. That's important, is listen to what they have to say, and then try to help them come up with some solutions. Help recommend a counselor or help them find other solutions to their problem.
What strategies do you use to show empathy and understanding to youth who may be struggling?
Again, I'd go back to listening, number one skill, and then try to help connect them with professionals with whatever situation they're in.
Why did you want to work with middle schoolers?
I've always enjoyed working with kids. I always enjoyed sports, and I loved coaching, so it seemed like the perfect fit.
Hi, Ms. Teal. Thank you for letting us have some of your time today. I just have a couple questions for you. First off, how do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
I like to be open about myself, about my personal experiences, and try to find some kind of common ground with the students. So for instance, if I know I have students that like sports, I let them know we have that in common. If I have students that I know they like a certain type of music, I try to let them know we have that in common. So I always try to find a way for every student to know that they have something in common with me and something that we can always talk about. And then once they feel like, oh, hey, I can talk to her about this, then hopefully they will feel confident enough to talk to me about anything that might be bothering them.
That's awesome. Now, how do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
The first thing I let my students know from day one is that I have a zero tolerance policy regarding bullying and treating others poorly. I'm a firm believer in treat others the way you want to be treated. And I just feel like once they know from the beginning what my stance is, they realize that zero tolerance policy is a real thing. Like, I mean what I say. And when we have to talk about it, I'm a straightforward person. I don't hide my feelings about things, and I just I just address things head on, and I don't beat around the bush or dance around a topic. I address it head on, straightforward, and that is that's a strategy that's always worked well for me.
Well, that's great. What strategies do you use to show empathy and understanding to young people who may be struggling?
Again, I think it all comes down to building that relationship with you, letting them know, you know what, I'm not just your teacher, I'm a real person, sharing my personal experiences with them. I don't keep a whole lot of things completely private. So if I feel like, students are going through something that I've been through and I can offer some advice, or, just letting them know, you know what, I've been there, I understand. If you want to talk about it, let me know. My door is always open.
Awesome. Love it. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for letting us have
You're
some of your
welcome.
time today.
How do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
I think it's about being honest with young people and allowing them to say things in a safe space if they need to, reminding them how to be kind, and showing them respect so that they will respect you back.
How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
I think that being real helps, showing students that teachers are humans too, and that some of us have dealt with bullying in the past when we were in school. Some of us deal with mental health issues now, even as adults, and I think that being open about the struggles that you have and being willing to just sit and listen to what they have to say when they need to, offering a hug if they need it, you know, those kind of things helps to keep the open lines. And then I'm always willing to stand in the gap for people who are being bullied. I'll stand up for you.
Why?
This is Coach Whitmire. He's my test result that I chose, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions. How did you establish trust and open communication with young people?
Well, I think it just starts with respecting young people and treating them like, you know, the adults that they're becoming, and not kind of talking down to you guys and treating you like your little kids, but just kind of starting with a place of respect and, you know, treating you guys like human beings and not little kids that annoy me, but more of a emphasis on working together and, you know, just kind of respect both ways.
How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
Well, you know, I try to be very careful with that. I try to make sure, I mean, obviously, I like to pick on kids sometimes. I like to joke around, but I do always make sure to think about what other people are feeling. And I think just being empathetic and just kind of always understanding that you don't know what other people are going through, and just, you know, kind of being conscious of that, and just always treating people with respect would be what I would do.
What strategies do you use to show empathy and understanding to youth who may be struggling?
I don't know if there's a strategy I use as much as it's just kind of having a constant level of baseline empathy and just, you know, like I said, thinking about what other people might be going through, understanding that you don't know what everyone's going through, and always kind of keeping that in the back of your mind. So if there was a strategy, I guess it's just kind of always having that in the back of my mind that, you know, if someone's rude to me, you know, I don't know what they're going through. Maybe they're going through a bad day, and, you know, trying to be more understanding of that.
Mm-hmm. Why did you want to work with middle schoolers?
I did not. I'm just kidding. I think middle schoolers are very misunderstood. I think you guys, are going through a lot. You know, I always compare you guys to my toddler. Very similar issues. They're going through different things growing up. No, but seriously, you guys are generally good kids. I mean, like, we're very lucky at Madison County Middle School to have really good kids. And when I tell people I'm a middle school teacher, they're always like, "Ooh, it's a rough age group." But I'm always like, "No, they're good kids. Like, they're just, you know, sometimes it's kind of being empathetic. They're going through a lot right now, but you guys are good kids." And so it's bless you. I enjoy teaching middle school, and I've always felt like this is a good age group for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Ledgerwood. First question. How do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
I would say being a safe space for them, and hopefully they know that, and also just talking to them like they're human beings, because, I mean, y'all are young, but you guys are still human, and you deserve to be spoken to with respect.
Second question. How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
I would say the first thing that I do myself is I acknowledge struggle within myself, and I'm open with my students, as open as I can be. And I think by doing that, they're more willing, you know, to come and talk to me about anything mental health wise, if anybody's, you know, bullying them or picking on them. And I just also let them know, like, I'm an advocate for them, and if anybody is messing with them, making them feel any type of way, that, you know, I'm gonna fight for them. And that's really how we get into communication about all those different topics.
Alright, so the first question is, how do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
The most important thing is being a good listener. And you have to be genuine. I think young people can see through that. They can see fake. And so I think being a good listener and being genuine and authentic, and most of all, just showing, not just saying that you care about it. A lot of people say that you care about it, but you have to be honest with them, and you have to demonstrate care, and that is finding out about what they're interested in, what they like to do, and listening to them. I mean, some of my students on Monday morning, first thing we do when we start class is I have them just tell me what they did over the weekend. You know, so what's the highlight of your weekend? So that's always, I think those are the things that you can do.
Thank you.
All right, hey.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. All right, well, good.
Okay, first question. How do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
So I think that they need to know that you genuinely like them, and I think that they're more likely to be open with you, and I think you just have to be really truthful with them too. And if they know that you're truthful with them and that you care about them, then I think they're more likely to be open with you and want to share stuff with you too.
How do you approach difficult topics such as mental health and bullying with young people?
So I don't think it's that hard because like when I was younger, I think that there was more of a stigma around things like mental health, but I think y'all are really good about knowing stuff like that and not being embarrassed to talk about it and maybe wanting more information. So I don't really think it's that hard. I think it's still being truthful about things. And sometimes it's like giving y'all more information about stuff so that you understand it better. And when you understand it better, then it's kind of less scary. And also just, letting people know like everybody has mental health is health for everybody. And just kind of normalizing being able to talk about it and making people not scared of it. So just kind of saying like, this is a normal thing, this isn't anything to be embarrassed about, let's just talk about it and figure it out.
First one is, how do you establish trust and open communication with young people?
That's a very good question. The best way to establish trust with young people and trust is to build relationships with them, to get to know them in a personal way, like something about them, like I know you like to swim, I know you enjoy spending time with your brothers because they're so important. So when you get to know things about students, then they feel that they can trust you and be open with you.
Okay. Second question, how do you approach difficult topics such as mental health or bullying with young people?
I think the best way to do that is just to be straightforward and ask the questions. If someone reports to me that Dylan is having trouble and he wants to harm himself, I'll just ask Dylan, are you having trouble? Do you want to harm yourself?
I'm glad y'all took it down. Thank y'all.
Third question, what strategies do you use to show empathy and understanding to youth who may be struggling?
Sometimes I try to relate to students in a way that is meaningful, something that they may experience that I've also experienced. For example, loss. We have several students who have lost important and close relatives, like they may have lost their mom or dad or a grandparent. And although I haven't lost my mom or I have lost my dad, and so I try to relate in that way and try to be empathetic and say, I understand. I've lost a parent too. This is how you may be feeling, and it's okay to feel your feelings, and people will open up when they know that you're understanding of their feelings.
Fourth question, why do you want to work with middle schoolers?
Middle school is the best age because they're changing so much. Y'all get here from elementary school and you come in as sixth graders and it's like, oh, I just really want somebody to touch me and nurture me and hold me. And then by the time you're eighth graders, it's like, lady, don't touch me. I'm grown now. And you just I get to see that change from elementary and growing up and to that maturation, and I just love seeing it. And by the time I see y'all, when you get to 12th grade, I'm like, oh my God, it's such a big difference. So I get to see the young Dylan, and then eventually I get to see the grown Dylan. It's like, whoo, what? And I get to be in that middle part of it. So I think it's, for me, I love that experience.
I don't think that was all the questions we had. Thank you for
Thank you, Dylan.